So just to follow up, we had Bailey with us, and Bailey gave us a lot and gave us her time, and it's appreciated. I'm thankful, and we wanted to continue the conversation because as it stands right now, we're recording this on Wednesday, September 23rd. If there's a delay or lapse, you're catching what is going on right now, right? So to kind of start things off, justice for Breonna Taylor, right? We're at this time right now where it has become very, very, very clear. And this is the breakdown for me. I seen, I think on Twitter, it was on Monday. They said, there's reports coming in that they told all police in Louisville, you can't go on vacation. You can any vacation you had, you need to come back, which meant they were gonna need all hands on deck for what they was getting ready to say. And here we are now. It's Wednesday, and what do they say? We are in the continued struggle and fight for justice for Breonna Taylor. We, this one injustice is injustice to all, right? That goes for oppression, that goes for racism, that goes for destruction and harm. If it's happening to one of us, it can happen to all of us. And it is happening to us because we are speaking out. We've spoken out for so long in so many ways, and we just wanted justice. We wanted a fair showing of holding people accountable for the wrongdoings and the mistakes that they've done and created. What have they committed themselves to? And what we're witnessing right now is no one wants to hold those in power accountable for their actions and what they've done, the harm they've created, the life that they've taken, because it's many lives that have been taken, and this is yet another one. And here we are asking, demanding, pushing. We're doing it all, and they've disrespected us. They've, in more than ways than one, they've neglected us in their ability to just kind of turn the page and move on while we're sit to deal with our feelings and to process these emotions that weigh heavy on us every day, because we know what's up. We look and we see a black woman who was taken away before she could fully realize all of her dreams, before she can live out and travel and do and experience and create the memories and the joy. All those things are non-existent because of this system, right? Right. We were talking with Bailey and we're talking about in the box. The box is racist. The box is oppressive, right? Thinking outside of the box is you trying to break free from the standards that they placed upon you, the restrictions that they try to hold you to. And it's bad enough they kill our people. They take away our people. They don't have the opportunity to be here with us in this fight because the fight has been long standing. It's hundreds of years in the making. And, being an American descendant of slavery, right? These are the ramifications, the multi generational traumas that have now manifested themselves in this moment. People are hurting, people are dying, and people are tired. And so we wanted to make sure that we gave our perspective, that we spoke, that it's out there, that we're sharing our narrative, that we're in the conversation, because it's important that we really talk about it and really explore our feelings and emotions and try to concentrate it in a way that makes sure that we can sustain ourselves, right? It don't mean that we're going to be perfect. It don't mean that we're not going to make mistakes, but it does mean the fight continues. It ain't over just because they say it's over. If anything, it's time to double down, and it's time to even better figure out how do we convey our message and get our point across and have our demands met. It's demands. It's not it's not a threat to your livelihood, it's not a threat to your safety to say we want to feel safe too. We're not taking anything away from anyone by saying we want to feel like we have a voice and we're valued. It's incredibly crazy. It's insanity to have every word in the dictionary that we have to describe all these feelings and emotions. Yet, as much as we use them, it seems like no one's listening or paying attention to what we're saying. It seems as though we're still speaking a different language. I just seen today there was a album released by it looks like a country singer, and it was an article about how the name of the album is called Long History of Violence, and it's one of those things where people were upset about the content of the music when what this album was doing was connecting the dots from being poor white people in the rural South to the empathy and struggles and the actual harm that's being done in the black community and it's been going on, right? And people were like, how could you even try and tie the two together? And it's like, this is an individual trying to show up as an ally and challenge those boxes, challenge these narratives that have been created over time, and say, how can we pride ourselves on anything if we not gonna stand with our fellow Americans? Because that's what we are, we're Americans. But when it's shown, no, the police gonna run in, and because you don't look like the America they want, or you represent the America they're afraid of, or because you've been conditioned and you've been taught that this isn't a part of the equation of protecting and serving, well, now you just you're a verdict. You're now a afterthought. You're just a canceled vacation because we took away. We took away your life. And your people are hurting because we took away your life. Unjustified. Was there a weapon on this person? Did this person provoke or display any immediate harm or danger to the officers as they entered the home and they decided to do what they wanted to do? To act like this hasn't happened so many times before in so many different ways, you can see the number of videos of people who are in their own homes being assaulted, being harassed by these individuals in power because they believe they have power. They believe their power justifies coming into your home because the neighbors don't know who you are because you just recently moved into the neighborhood. All that don't mean nothing. You're causing harm to fellow Americans. These Americans are black. These Americans are descendants of slaves. These are Americans who have ties to the African continent. Whatever the case may be, these are human beings. These are people who have just as much value as your blonde haired, blue eyed, pale skinned baby. It is literally human. There is no real difference other than what you decide to make of it. You treat us differently, we have to act differently. You give us no choice, we have to find a way to fight for more choices. All that we've ever wanted as a collective, as whether you believe in Buddha, Allah, Yahweh, God, Jesus, whatever your belief, we just want to be treated fair. We just want to feel free. I just had a conversation earlier today with an older black gentleman who I work with in a different realm, in a different space. And he's telling me, as much as I try to get out this house, I'm always mindful I might not come back. And I'm asking him how he doing, all things considered, right? Because when he asked me how I'm doing, I'm like, I'm doing all right. All things considered. Considered what? A pandemic, the racial injustice and oppression, and the murder of people who look like my family. And so when I turn the question back to him and I say, how are you doing? He's like, oh man, considering everything that's going on, as much as I want to get out this house, I'm always reminded there's a whole world out there that don't want to see me make it back. That's a person that's been here and put more time in. As they say, they got more time behind them than they got ahead of them. And even now, with the time that they do have, it's dealt with that level of reasoning, right? I got to step outside and I got to be mindful and thoughtful. Am I gonna make it back? So, with that, you know, I just wanted to make sure that we frame that out for people who do listen, for those that will, for the sake of posterity, for the sake of the future, that this is a recorded document, that this is a moment in time that we are vocal as a collective, that we are in unison, that we are a choir, that we are a group, we are a movement, we are a force to be reckoned with. And so, Affluent, what you got to say? How you feeling?
Um, First off, like I never even expect or hope to make it home. Um, and I think about Breonna Taylor, and like she didn't even get to leave the house. Like she's like in her place of shelter. Like like you sheltering in place, and it's not safe there. It's like she's literally her job was to save people's lives, right? Not sit in the house and record a podcast, not sit in the house and be on Zoom, not just an essential worker, but uh, an EMT for like emergency responder who who was a technician. Her job was just to keep people alive. If and the stress that comes with that job, the 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 effort, the education that comes with that job, the studying, um, the the skill sets that you have to learn to do that job well, to be employed to do that job, um, are not toss away easy things to learn. And it's like when you come from anywhere in America where you're marginalized and uh, come from a low income home, like to become an EMT is a win, is a win, is a win, is a win. It's like to get out of a toxic relationship is a win. To be estranged from your ex is a win. To be unaffiliated with your ex is a win that's not easily won. To move on to a new relationship is not an easy win. To feel peace at home in a new neighborhood is not an easy win. And for all the winning, she got to be a martyr, where companies use her face to stop the bleeding and their losses, their financial losses, and they bottom line, uh, to hold space and relevance, when they're not providing any products or services for the public, to for personalities, celebrity personalities, public figures, to use her face to be relevant, to seem empathetic, uh, to seem like they have any relatability, um, in their front offices. Um, it's like I don't want to be a martyr just because I found peace and like a night where I could rest. Like I don't want to be a martyr because I'd learned from my mistakes and found like my piece of paradise because I'm nesting. Like I don't want to be a martyr. I don't want to be on nobody's shirt. I don't want to be on Time magazine. I don't want to be on Oprah, on old magazine. I don't want to be a meme just because I learned how to make better decisions. And I found a job that could sustain me, that I could save money, that I could buy a home eventually, that I could get a nice apartment. I don't want to be a martyr because I learned like how to navigate this system that was not set up for me. I don't want to be a martyr because I found something I'm passionate about and I work long hours and I'm sleeping through the night and I don't wake up because because a system empowers people to be protectors of the status quo, to be protectors of their own biases, be protectors of their own prejudices, um, be protectors of convenience and comfort, and to instill fear. Like literally, it's just like terrorism. It's like we say all this bad stuff about things happening abroad and how people lose their lives, and it's like I just feel like it's real. I think it's real convenient for someone to have a problem with protesting enough to speak up about it, um, and not have a problem with like the girl who just saved your teenager's lives because he overdosed get murdered in her bed. It's like EMT save countless lives a week, dozens of lives a week. So maybe not countless, but when you take the industry, take the job title, and you look across the country and say how many people were saved by emergency responders by EMTs, is a lot of people, especially in a pandemic where they're running around saving people who are short of breath, running around getting them as quick as possible, you know, putting themselves at risk. Like they show up to crazy scenes, and it's just like you really just got no feelings towards somebody being murdered in cold blood, and you like I don't know many Americans who are knuckleheads. I don't know many people on the planet who aren't knuckleheads. Especially as a teenager, even if there's a spectrum of knuckleheadedness. And to get to a point where you learn from your mistakes, you learn from your choices, you learn from your past relationships, and you make judgments, and you become more discerning in how to navigate this world that the system doesn't even teach you how to navigate. Like it's no classes set up to teach you what money is, what it means after you're done with arithmetic, after you're done with math, basic math. They won't tell you another thing about a dollar. Um, and when you find a job where you can make some money and support yourself, and you get out of I just think about the life she lived, not not how she died or why she died. I just think it's so many people doing the same thing, like trying to live, and I can't imagine knowing. Well, I know too many people. I have too many photos of people whose lives were taken. I have too many obituaries. Um, they they sitting real close to me right now. I don't even want to pull them out. For those that are watching the video, I got a freezer bag um, full of obituaries, because I've been to a lot of funerals. Uh, I've just since Christmas lost 10 people that I know personally, um, and that's not counting the number of people that I know that have lost people as well, this year, not just to pandemia, but also not just to a pandemic, but just to the system, where there are food deserts, so it's not a lot of proper nutrition. There's lack of care. There's not enough nurses, or not enough time, doctors hours in the day to take care of people. It's not enough. Emergency rooms are not big enough. Uh, People get pushed to the back of the line or left waiting when they need care. Um, like in the pandemic right now, you got shelters that can only house 20% um, of their capacity. So it's like an extra 80% of people are outside right now um, during the summer into this fall, and will be into the winter. Um, not just in San Francisco, um, but around the country and a lot of places around the world. And to have a home and then be killed, and then a justice system say it there was no wrong done. Like I can't vibe with that. I can't believe that. I can't accept that. And I'm just part of a a community of people who feel like wrong should wrong should be corrected. Um, Inequity should be corrected. Inequality should be corrected. Um, Underrepresentation should be corrected. And like, I don't want nothing from anybody. I don't want to take nothing from anybody. I don't want anybody's position. I just want my space, my personal space, my life, my spirit, my energy, my flux light for my people, um, to be of value. That, like, I'm not artificial intelligence. I'm just a person that was born here, and I have relationships, and those relationships are part of who I am, and make me um, who I am, and part of how I hold on to identity, and my connection to people are also a part of other people's identities. And Breonna Taylor's relationship to people in her community and her family, and some of the people that she saved, and people that she was on the back of the ambulance with, and the people that she gave CPR to, or hooked the defibrillator up to, like, those relationships, like, make up those people's lives. Those bonds that she had with those people make up those lives. And just to have them be taken, and you say it's not wrong, it's not punishable, it's not even worth looking into, it's not even worth a trial. Like, it's it's just everything that's false about America coming to light. Um, it's like when you say things that are like, oh, this is unconstitutional, and then you see governors and attorney generals and legislation passed that undermines the Constitution. And if you don't have a trial, then there's no look into it. If you don't have a trial, then there's no opportunity for justice to show up. And that's not a new world for me. That's not a new America for me. That's the same America that brought my ancestors here. That's the same America that decided that free labor was better than paying people. Um, and it's the same thinking. It's the same dehumanization of people that says, if a person with a family and relationships and bonds ends up in the front of a bullet by accident, as long as I'm wearing a badge, it's all right. Um, because my job is stressful, and because I caused harm, I fear for my life. Um, and I have friends and family who are in law enforcement around this country, and I feel for those people for them, because they have to figure out how to navigate this world. They have a more complex relationship with the law than I do. Um, and and it's dangerous for them to even speak up. Um, it's frowned upon for them to even come out and say anything that's not endorsed by their precinct or their attorney general or their deputy sheriff or their sheriff, um, or their captain or their colonel or their sergeant or their detective. It's like if it's not endorsed by your the authority above you by a supervisor, you can't have an opinion. And I think that's so wrong with America. That's literally what America was supposed to be running from. Um, is that you couldn't say nothing against the king, and now people is the same thing as was been there. That's the thing. Like it's not a new America. It's the same America, and that's the thing. Like America hasn't ever been great. It's like people call it the experiment of capitalism, and you got people it's like kids playing with toys, and whoever gets to the toys first gets to have fun for playtime. And playtime has been going on, and folks need their toys taken away, um, because you ain't letting everybody else play, and to the point where like people are disappearing on the playground, and it's not a game. And that dehumanization of people who are non-white, who are non-cisgender, who are not straight, um, is disappearing children, is disappearing young people, is disappearing adults, is disappearing families, on a genocidal level, on a generational level, and we can't just not talk about it. It's like there's nothing else to talk about. It's like nothing else to talk about, and we should be excited to talk about it. We should be hopeful to talk about it. As sad and as sombering as it is, um, as demonstrative as it is, as disgusting as it is, we should take full advantage of being in this country where supposedly you can't get shot, supposedly you can't get arrested, supposedly you can't get killed for, oh, I gotta lean this way. Supposedly you can't get killed for speaking your mind. Like, cancel me. It's not the end of my life. It's not the end of my job. Like I live in San Francisco, um, and it is a flex, but there's a reality of hypocrisy, um, here in San Francisco. Like tolerance is not acceptance. So to call any place tolerant is not enough. Um, that's dehumanizing a word in the first place, and um, like we shouldn't tolerate murder. Uh, we shouldn't tolerate home invasion. Um, and I think everybody had a little taste of that, with this pandemic, with their some of their rights being taken away, and folks freaked out. And the folks who wasn't freaking out was the folks who deal with it all the time, who've been dealing with it for generations, and we just had to like sit at home, work from home, and wait for the news that somebody else was murdered who looked like us. And for the first time, people didn't have jobs to go to distract themselves and not talk about it. They didn't have sports to go to not talk about it. There was no nothing. There was no cooler for them to stand around and talk about something else. And we just have to get to a place of where like it's okay. Like they got the phrase in the fitness industry, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And Really, we had to be like that with our spirits, with our emotions. That yo, like we got to be okay with being uncomfortable about like the only thing that matters right now. Like that's how revolution started in the first place. Is like there was nothing else to talk about, but the king was doing wrong. There's nothing else to talk about except slavery was wrong. There's nothing else to talk about except that the redcoats was coming. There's nothing else to talk about ex- except that people is not eating the way they need to survive. People is not getting the education they need to survive and thrive. People are not getting the protection under these rights that they need to thrive and survive. And there's nothing else to talk about. And if you're not talking about it in your music, in your arts, in your conversations, in your water coolers, in your Zoom, in your classes, you're not even a part of the community. You're not even part of society. Like you're not just turning a blind eye or a blind ear. Like you literally in denial of what's happening to the people next to you. And if you calling yourself a Christian and you're not worried about the person next to you, then you're not listening to the guy you think you claiming is the person at the head of your life. And you got to come to terms with that, not me, not us, because we over here trying to love each other. We over here trying to love the person next to us. Like when I see Breonna Taylor, I see her, not another sister. I see her as family because that bullet could come through that window right now or through this door right now. Like this door could be kicked in right now. And it wouldn't make a difference to y'all if it was recording or not. Y'all would be like, Thursday night football is on. Y'all would be like, it's the it's the basketball playoffs. It's the US Open. And I never done anything wrong with the law. Whoops. I never was affiliated with anybody. I couldn't even if I told you who I was cool with in law enforcement, you'd be like, how could this happen to him? And like the captains of of police departments around the country that I've met and talked to, there'd be no reason except that I was recording and telling the truth. There would be no other reason for me to not be here on this planet. And so when you say like you talk about Breonna Taylor, who's an EMT, somebody who's like job, I get paid to save lives, like to preserve life. Like, would it hit home for you if she saved your life? Would it hit home for you if she lived next door to you? If you grew up with her, would it hit home for you if she was dating your brother? If you would it hit home for you if you got your hair done at the same place? Would it hit home for you if your elementary school was right next door? Would it hit home for you if she was walking in front of your kid's elementary school? Would it hit home for you? You got to like figure out for yourself, like when you go care about people um, who are innocent um, and not perfect, uh, just innocent under the law. Um, and when you go care about a law that protects people, you know, it's, it's lyrical ones.
It's
Um,
Lyrical Ones, episode 17, verse 2, bar 1, however you want to paint the picture. But, you, I mean, just to kind of really think about it, just to give people the idea, kind of think about these things, right?
go do your thing. Do your thing, bro.
When you look at the American flag and you see that red, white, and blue, and you think about what's it stand for, right? Like You think about the themes and the idea of a revolution, an American revolution. You think about the themes of getting away from, us being a part of, the UK, Britain, right? The other motherland, right? And the colors are the same, right? It's the same colors. It's just it's a different flag, right? But some of those principles remain. Some of those same structures, right? We went from getting away from the king to now we trying to get away from the state, right? We went
Yep.
from getting away from a person to now getting away from these words we've put on documents to say this is how we're going to maintain order. It's not the king's rule, it's the things that we passed, right? It's the things that we passed that you might not be privy to, you might not be aware of, or that you didn't even have a hand in writing or making. We're literally talking about the law. We're talking about how we decide this world is going to be. That's all this is. All we doing is following rules in some book. I mean, I wasn't raised with that book. I'm not familiar with that book, but that book literally runs my life. It is the difference between my freedom and me being trapped. People talk about having bootstraps. We all live by the same rule book, but we're treated differently when that rule book is thrown in our face. We all think about how, oh, you just pick yourself up by the bootstraps. If you ain't got feet, then you ain't got no bootstraps to pull yourself up by. Breonna Taylor was living her life. She was a part of her community in a positive way, trying to be helpful and healing, and yet still was met with an outcome of there's no fault on our behalf for her death. Let that be someone else who doesn't look like Brianna, who doesn't look like her family member, right? We're talking about we're in this collaborative experiment, the United States, where just as Affluent has said, this is the same country that brought the slaves. It's also the same country that set them free. It's the same country that, as much as they were trying to get away from the king's rule, every step of the way was fighting for change, right? What is the Tea Party other than a protest? Yet the Americans who are here are protesting themselves, right? They talk about the destruction of property. Where you think we got it from? You literally destroyed our culture. You destroyed our language. You destroyed our heritage, our connection to our roots. You destroyed it. And then you want to get upset that we want to break some windows, right? When you think about it, you think about this pandemic, Alfluence said it, right? This is the first chance people have had the taste of what it means to not have those liberties that you enjoyed before the pandemic. Yet, black and brown people, we've been dealing with it our whole lives. We've been dealing with it for generations. We're talking about reading articles on articles upon articles of, well, they live in the projects. It looks like military barracks. I don't know how many times I've seen that in newspaper articles as I've grown. They live in the projects. They look like military barracks. This is a common theme, a common thread. And it's like we went from living on the plantation to them designating whole areas for us to live in, not thrive, just survive, get by, right? You got people like our CEO Wells Fargo, the same company that was opening up accounts illegally, that was
Mm.
unethically, right? They had people, a bunch of people doing these fake accounts. It was like last year or the year before. Yet they go and say the CEO has the nerve to say, as unfortunate it is for me to say, there's just not a lot of black talent out there. Boy, oh boy, what do you mean? I know people who didn't even graduate high school and were working at the bank. What do you mean? You have people who obviously in your own company were doing unethical actions trying to inflate numbers for the justification of growth when there was none. And you have the nerve to say that there's not enough black talent, but if we talk about the black unemployment rates, it's always going to be higher than the rest of the country, right? When we talk about the deindustrialization of the United States and how black men had jobs that provided for families, right? Where does that fall into the equation of black talent? When every interval we get a chance, you all conveniently, when I say you all, I mean you people in power, you people in positions that hold authority, you people that get to enforce those papers and those books and those laws, how convenient it is for you to say, oh, well, now it's about talent. There's not enough black people to find talent. Or is it that you don't know how to get talent? Because the talent is out there. You can't tell me you've went after everyone. You can't tell me you've played your role in developing and fostering that talent, because it's not like I haven't seen black people work at a bank before. Have I ever seen them in a managerial position? Have you made the investment to see them grow? We sat on here in many episodes, professionals in the tech field saying there was no one taking an interest in my professional development and growth, so I had to fight for it. But there's a common theme, right? We don't get to talk to everybody, and those are individuals that we had to seek out to be a part of this podcast because they're active in the work and they're leading those conversations. But not everyone is conditioned, not everyone has those experiences to be able to lead those conversations. So what that really says is you have people who come into your company to make you look good, and instead of holding on to them and harnessing them and building them up, you rather just let them go because they don't fit the bill of having talent. To have talent means you've had a coach, you had some direction, someone taught you. I speak a language not because I learned it on my own. I speak a language because my mother and my father were constantly trying to talk to me to get me to communicate with them. They trained me. Everything that's happened so far has come from the teachers that have lied before me and giving me access and opportunity, either through the knowledge or in my ability to use that knowledge to, well, be talented. And so here we are at this time period where Breonna Taylor, she's lost her life. We're in a state where, this country more than ever is comfortable with communicating and showing how much they don't value black lives, right? I'm
So
not trying
comfortable.
to take away from all the injustices, but right now that's what's being discussed. We're talking about black lives. We're talking about Americans who are the descendants of American slavery who have been impacted multi-generationally through redlining, right? These are laws that y'all made, right? Through, you know, segregation, right? We're talking about the deindustrialization. We're talking about the war on drugs. I mean, come on. The drugs are coming from a plane, and at that time period, I can't really say how many of those planes were flown by black pilots, let alone how many of those black pilots spoke Spanish or any other language to be able to traffic the drugs into the communities that it caused harm. Oh, wait, that's right. Y'all had a whole section of the FBI designated just to the Black Panthers who were responsible for the free lunch programs. Oh, that's right. Y'all bombed the house that Fred Hampton was in, and y'all literally shot everyone up in it. And here we are, all these years later, from a black leader to a black woman who is a leader in her community, right? It's whether she chose to be a leader or not. Her being an EMT, her being out there, she gets to represent something for the next child who sees her in uniform in that ambulance. She is a representative of change, of something different. If it is the norm out there, guess what? For me to know that there's people out there who are taking ownership in these roles and showing up in the communities, it means something to me. She's a leader in my eyes. Every time I see a person, every time I give that subtle head nod of respect, you're doing your thing. I love you. I respect you. I see you. I know what it took for you to get here, even if it ain't the same. I know what it means for you to stay here. But now, right, we talk about the loss of life. We talk about the disruption of life. And we talk about how what it means to be American is to fight for change, to fight for our freedoms. And yet we're not given a fair shake, right? We're not given the same amount. Like people often wonder why things are the way they are. Because there's people in power, people in positions that hold themselves to these paper documents as to this is the way it should be. But I'm gonna keep it 100. The time they wrote the Constitution, they didn't have no cell phones. They didn't have the ability to generate and create a whole movie. They didn't have deep fakes. They didn't have people being able to show themselves in ways that we have no stretch of the imagination to really comprehend. To me, I'm at a point where we need wide sweeping changes. We need to really revise and restructure what it is that we're holding on to, because it's obvious it's not working. It's working for some, it's not working for the whole. It's not working for even the majority, because in these minorities that are struggling, right? Whether they be black, brown, yellow, red, whatever you call it, they're not being treated fairly. They're not being given a fair opportunity to exist. And you got a lot of white allies out here who are trying to be a part of the struggle too, who are trying to fight for those changes. And yet they're being labeled as a terrorist organization. Now, it isn't to say there ain't people out there who are disruptive, but again, we also have agents of the state, right? We also have people, and I know because I've had conversations with the leaders that have come before me, I know the stories. Someone trying to fight for liberation and freedom of people who are oppressed, who've been subjugated against the system, right? What happens? Someone infiltrates, someone goes undercover, someone creeps in to the fold. They earn the trust, they gain your love, they gain the ability to have a bond. And what do? You think that they're fighting for you when they fighting against you the whole time. And then what happens? People go to jail. Now, we sitting here at a time when just recently one of the Black Panthers were released from jail. Now, they've been up for parole for what, since 1994, 1995, and the only reason why I'm of the belief they got released is cuz they had to recover from COVID. I'm blessed that they're free, but they've been in jail for 49 years. Time has been taken away. They ain't gonna get that time back. Lives have been taken away. We can't get that life back. So we're not sitting here as people who are trying to cause harm. We're not here to cause destruction. But things have to change. That is a demand. It has to change. That is the truth. That's the absolute truth that we live in. Whatever you believe, whatever you know, if you have compassion to understand pain, that's what's going on. We're in pain. And in order to stop this pain, to stop this hurt, we need changes so that way the next generation understands how not to create harm, how not to create pain, because that is what we're living in. We are living in pain. We don't want to be in pain. We don't want the harm to happen. For anybody who says, oh, yeah, well, if you just look at it differently, if you just stop complaining, if you just do something about it, we've been trying to do something about it this whole time. And every time we try to do something about it, you take us out, you take us down, you destroy us, you take away our credibility.
65 years ago today, 65 years ago today, the murderers who killed Emmett Till, disfigured and and killed Emmett Till, got off scot free. Were also not charged, not not convicted of anything, and also the same system, right? No corrections made. They wasn't even law enforcement. They even admitted that they did it and that they were mistaken for their reasons, even though their reasons wasn't justified in the first place. The people involved, like, even admitted, the woman involved even admitted that she lied, and they all got off free except the young boy. Like, we know that these officers, that these murderers, they knew that Brianna, the guy they were looking for was already in custody. They had the wrong house because the guy wasn't there, and there was no reason for them to come in shooting, and then and no reason for them to not knock on the door. And today they got off scot free, and that's how we know that's how we know we're still living in America. That's how we know it's the same country with with the same rules for the same people and different rules for different people. Um,
Hey, money keeps you free, and if you ain't got money, how free can you be?
I'm free without it.
I mean, hey, but that one wrong move, right? Think about it like this: you
How
would
about no
judge.
wrong moves? No
I
wrong
mean, you're
moves.
right. You're right. No wrong moves. It could just be you just there, right? But if I'm rolling through in a bulletproof tank, what you gonna do to me? If I'm removed from all signs of any chance I can have you cause me harm, what you gonna do to me? There's levels to it. There's degrees to it. But at the end of the day, how free are you? And in this context of the situation, as they continue to define our limits, as they get to define like as deep as it can be, you said it. It was like you can't have no conversation. It wasn't no water coolers back then. When the revolution was happening, we all on a revolution. But now they got us distracted. They use our people to keep us inoculated, to keep us
Mentally
under,
inoculated. You right.
yeah, to keep us in wraps within ourselves of, oh, well, I don't have to see what's happening to my other people because I'm looking at my people right now. They on the screen. They're keeping me glued because they give me that sense of validation of being seen. Whereas the baby's dying in the street, right? Well, it's easy to turn a blind eye, but it's hard to do that now because we've had a moment in time where fates would have it. You're gonna have to sit down with yourself, and every time you try to distract yourself, we're gonna remind you because you're gonna see it on your little screen.
And
The
and
game has changed.
every time some athlete, some criticizer says, somebody with a platform says that a protest, that one basketball game or one football game or one practice or one shirt won't do any good, there's some group of people that believe that, and it becomes true. And the same thing with votes. If you spread the news that your vote don't count, then it won't. And but if you spread the news that people need to be educated, you spread the news that folks need to take a break from sports and escapism. You spread the news that if we do this together, in this together, so many slogans of being in this together over this summer, over this spring, from these corporations saying that they was in this together, in this with us. Really, they just hoping that we spend when the time comes, and they want your ratings. They just want you. They want your spins. They want your sound bites. They want they want your words so they can recreate them and reframe them for their context, for their platform. And so remember to do it with the people next to you, to form community with the people next to you, to fight and struggle with the people next to you, so that the people who are not around don't dilute your message. The people who are not in the struggle with you don't take your words, reframe them, and misuse them and misconstrue them against you. Um, like if the reason why the revolution won't be televised is because we're not giving the time and place away to the people who are not a part of it. And we got to realize that if you keep sharing the good news just like they did when they murdered a black Palestinian. The state murdered a black Palestinian for doing no wrong, for being innocent by the mob, convicted by the mob. If you keep telling the good news, they go say it's not the truth. They go say it's a lie, and that love don't work, and that the only way to beat violence is with violence, and not with education. And really, love is just that: knowing somebody, acknowledging them, and making sure they are seen and not looked over or left out. And if we can educate ourselves about each other, then we're on a step to loving each other. And the more we cover our ears and cover our eyes to what each other has to say, the further we are from improving this country, improving this planet. And we can't just chastise people and vilify people for having a different opinion. We have to do more, and we have to do more together. And it's not just the people that look like you, it's the people that disagree with you, um, and the people that don't see the world the way that you see the world, because you have to hear them as much as you have to speak up and be heard. And if you're only doing one side of that communication, you still not part of the solution. And folks got to know that. If you just going with the mega horn and not giving someone else the chance to speak and let people have time to dialogue and process what y'all saying, it's like, is this person really talking about love, or is this person talking about something else? Is this person really talking about community, or is this person talking about something else? Is this person talking about healing and making adjustments and fixing the problems and making corrections, or are they talking about something else? Are they talking about change, or are they talking about what's already been there? And and regardless of who you say is responsible for what's already here, measure how much work you've done. And if you ain't done too much work, if you ain't voted too much in your lifetime, if you are not sure which legislation put this person in power to make these decisions, these policies that keep you pressed down and marginalized, then you ain't done much. They ain't done enough either. And it's okay to say I haven't done enough. It's okay to be there and be in that space. It's okay to admit that you have misstepped and made mistakes. And it's okay to break up with your current way of making choices. It's okay to do that and learn a new way to save lives. It's all right to do that and say, like, man, I haven't done enough. But also acknowledge your bandwidth, right? When somebody asks for help, they're not saying go do more than you can. When somebody says, is there a doctor in the house? If you're not a doctor, you don't need to raise your hand. They're not asking for that. Say, well, I can do this. Well, if we need more than CPR, or if we need a doctor's help, well, you can go find a doctor. But if somebody say need help pushing a car, well, we'll say I'm not really good at pushing a car, but I'm light enough to steer it while somebody else push. Or I could hold traffic while y'all push the car. I could flag down somebody else while y'all push the car. Right, we in the space right now where the country is broken, is a broken down car, and everybody's got to get out and push. It's cold, winter's coming, and nobody wants to be pushing. But you can't, if you stay in the car, it's too heavy for us to push. So everybody's got to get out and do their part. Flag down some more help, block traffic, whatever you got to do to be a part of the solution, be a part of the solution.
No, I mean, In that, I just want to say to people who decide to protest, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the people who are around you, be mindful that there will be undercovers, there will be agents of the state that wish to take away from what it is we're fighting for, who will try to discredit and minimize the scope of the work that you're putting in. So please be mindful to call them out, to separate yourself from them, and to take pictures and identify them.
Folks who
Don't like
incite violence, be mindful of them. Those who incite violence, who pay attention to their body language. They generic paraphernalia and their apparel. Be mindful of what they look like, and if they give you
uniformity.
if if the way they move and the way they interact with everyone else, be mindful of all of that, because they are out there. That's the reality of it, and you need to identify them. Um, what the chat say?
It's about to go down. So, with all that, just to be clear, right? If they afraid to show their face, they shouldn't be in your space. And that's coming from a person with a mask on. But my mask is easily identifiable, and this mask don't change. It don't hide. So if they are afraid to show their face, they shouldn't be in your space. So with that, we just want to give our love, to give our peace and our support to everyone in the struggle. Oppression against one is oppression against all. And this has been Lyrical Ones. Thank you, and keep the fight on.